September 18th, 1975. Pamplona, Spain. Robin and Marian film set. Sean Connery and Audrey Hepburn are filming their first romantic scene together. She's 46 years old. He's 45. They're playing legendary lovers reunited after 20 years apart. The cameras are rolling. The crew is watching. Sean leans in to kiss Audrey for the first time in the film. And then something unprecedented happens. Sean Connery stops, mid-scene, mid-kiss. He pulls back, looks directly into Audrey's eyes, and says something that shocks everyone on set. Something so unexpected that the crew forgets to stop recording. Something that will change how Audrey Hepburn sees herself for the rest of her life. What did Sean Connery say to 46-year-old Audrey Hepburn that made her burst into tears? What did he see in her face that made him forget he was filming a movie? Why did this moment become the most important 30 seconds of Audrey's career? Not because of the film they were making, because of what Sean's words gave back to her. Her confidence, her beauty, her belief in herself as a woman, not just as a memory of who she used to be. To understand what happened in that Spanish monastery, you need to understand where Audrey was in 1975. Mentally, emotionally, professionally. She was 46 years old in an industry that worshipped youth. She hadn't made a film in 4 years. Her last major success was My Fair Lady in 1964, 11 years earlier. The world had moved on. The 60s brought new faces. Faye Dunaway, Jane Fonda, Barbra Streisand. Women who represented a different kind of beauty. More modern, more sexual, more relevant. Audrey felt ancient by comparison. She'd watch herself in old films and see a young woman who seemed like a stranger. The war-thin figure that once made her unique now looked skeletal next to the curvier actresses of the 70s. Her gamine haircut seemed childish compared to the flowing locks that were fashionable. Her refined elegance felt outdated in an era celebrating rebellion and sexuality. She'd started avoiding mirrors, avoiding photographers. When paparazzi caught her in Switzerland, she'd see the pictures in magazines with captions like Audrey Hepburn, 46, looking every year of her age. The cruelty was casual, expected. In Hollywood, aging was a woman's greatest sin. Her marriage to Andrea Dotti was collapsing. He was 30 when they married in 1969. She was 40. 6 years later, the age difference felt like a chasm. Andrea was cheating constantly with younger women. When Audrey confronted him, he'd shrug. "What do you expect? You're not the woman I married." He meant physically, sexually. The woman he married was 40. Now she was 46. In his mind, that made her worthless. Audrey had started believing him. Started believing she was past her expiration date. That her time as a desirable woman was over. That she should be grateful for whatever scraps of attention she could get. That accepting roles like Robin and Marian, playing an aging woman opposite an aging man, was the best she could hope for. She almost turned down the film. The script was beautiful. Richard Lester's direction was intelligent. But playing Marian meant confronting her age on screen. Meant admitting she was no longer the princess from Roman Holiday or the ingenue from Sabrina. She was middle-aged. In Hollywood terms, that meant invisible. Sean Connery was different. He was 45, but his career was soaring. James Bond had made him a global icon. Women of all ages found him attractive. Men wanted to be him. He represented a new kind of masculine ideal. Rugged, experienced, dangerous. For men, aging could mean becoming more attractive. Sean Connery was proof. When he was offered the role of Robin Hood, Sean could have chosen any actress as his Marian. Elizabeth Taylor was available. Sophia Loren was interested. Younger actresses would have jumped at the chance to work with Sean Connery. Instead, Sean insisted on Audrey. He'd admired her work for decades. He believed she was perfect for the role of a woman who'd loved Robin Hood, lost him, and found him again 20 years later. He saw something in Audrey that she couldn't see in herself. Something that had nothing to do with youth and everything to do with depth. "I want Audrey Hepburn," he told the producers. Not because of who she was, because of who she is now. Marian isn't supposed to be 25. She's supposed to be a woman who's lived, who's suffered, who understands the weight of love and loss. Audrey is the only actress alive who can play that truth. These forgotten stories deserve to be told. If you think so too, subscribe and like this video. Thank you for keeping these memories alive. The producers worried. Would audiences accept a 46-year-old Audrey as a romantic heroine? Could she carry a film at her age? Sean's response was direct. If audiences can't see that Audrey Hepburn is still the most beautiful woman in the world, that's their problem, not hers. But Audrey didn't know any of this when she arrived in Spain for filming. She only knew she felt old, insecure, and terrified that everyone would realize she didn't belong there anymore. The first weeks of filming were difficult. Audrey was professional, as always. But the crew noticed she seemed fragile, uncertain. She'd ask for multiple takes of simple scenes, convinced she was getting it wrong. She'd study herself in the monitor with a critical eye that bordered on self-hatred. During costume fittings, she'd make comments that broke the crew's hearts. "Maybe we should pad the dress. I'm too thin. Can you hide my neck? The lines are so visible. Perhaps we should use more makeup. I look so tired." The costume designer, Yvonne Blake, later said watching Audrey criticize herself was one of the most painful experiences of her career. Here was this icon, this woman who defined elegance for a generation, apologizing for how she looked. It was heartbreaking. She couldn't see what we all saw, that she was still luminous, still magnetic, still Audrey. Sean noticed immediately. He'd worked with actresses of all ages. He understood the specific cruelty that Hollywood inflicted on women over 40. He'd seen careers destroyed not by lack of talent, but by the industry's obsession with youth. He was determined not to let that happen to Audrey. He started small. Compliments that seemed casual but were carefully calculated. "You look beautiful today, Audrey. That color is perfect on you. Have I mentioned you have the most expressive eyes in cinema?" Audrey would smile politely and deflect. She'd been trained by years of insecurity to reject compliments, to assume they were politeness rather than truth. Sean realized he needed to do more than offer gentle praise. He needed to show her what he saw, what everyone saw, what she couldn't see herself. The romantic scenes were scheduled for the third week of filming. Sean and Audrey had been working together for 15 days. They developed a comfortable rapport. The crew liked both of them. The film was going well. But everyone knew the romantic scenes would be the real test. Could middle-aged Audrey convince audiences she was worth loving? Could she believe it herself? The scene was simple on paper. Robin and Marian, reunited after 20 years, finally alone together. They talk about the past, about what they've lost, about what they might still have. and then they kiss. The moment that tells the audience this love story is real. That these two people belong together despite everything that's happened, despite the time that's passed, despite the age on their faces and the weariness in their hearts. Richard Lester set up the shot carefully. Intimate lighting, 2 cameras to capture different angles. The scene would be emotional, not passionate. Tender rather than sexual. Perfect for actors of their age and the characters they were playing. Sean understood what this scene meant for Audrey. It wasn't just about the film. It was about whether she could still be seen as a woman worth loving. Whether audiences would accept her as a romantic figure at 46. Whether she could accept herself. The cameras rolled. Sean and Audrey began the scene. Their dialogue was natural, comfortable. They talked about Robin's years away, Marian's life without him. The connection between them felt real, authentic. 2 people who'd loved each other, lost each other, and found each other again. Then came the moment. Sean moved closer to Audrey, their faces inches apart. The script called for a kiss. Long, meaningful, the first physical expression of their enduring love. Sean leaned in. Audrey closed her eyes, waiting. And then Sean stopped. He didn't kiss her. He didn't follow the script. He pulled back slightly and looked at her face. Really looked at her. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The camera kept rolling. The crew held their breath. Audrey opened her eyes, confused. "What's wrong?" she whispered, barely audible. Sean's response wasn't in the script. It came from something deeper, something honest, something he couldn't keep inside any longer. "Audrey," he said quietly, his Scottish accent making her name sound like a caress. "You're more beautiful now than you were at 25. The words hung in the air. Audrey's eyes filled with tears. Not scripted tears. Real tears. The camera captured every second. Her face showed shock, disbelief, and then something else. Something that hadn't been there moments before. Hope. "You don't mean that," she whispered. "I mean every word," Sean said, still holding her gaze. "At 25, you were pretty. Now you're beautiful. There's a difference. Pretty is surface. Beautiful comes from living, from experience, from becoming who you're meant to be." The crew was transfixed. This wasn't acting anymore. This was Sean Connery telling Audrey Hepburn a truth she desperately needed to hear. A truth that would change everything. "The lines around your eyes," Sean continued. "They're from laughing, from caring about people. The grace in how you move now, it's not the grace of a young woman trying to be elegant. It's the grace of someone who's earned it, who's lived through pain and kept her kindness intact." Audrey was crying openly now. Not the controlled tears of a professional actress. The raw, unguarded tears of a woman hearing herself described the way she'd forgotten she deserved to be described. "In 20 years," Sean said, "when men think about the most beautiful woman they ever knew, they won't picture some 25-year-old model. They'll picture you, right now, at this moment. Because this is what real beauty looks like." Richard Lester, watching from behind the camera, realized he was witnessing something extraordinary. He kept filming, kept recording this moment of pure human connection. Sean finally kissed her then, gently, reverently. The kiss was in the script, but everything leading up to it wasn't. When they separated, Audrey was transformed. Something in her posture had changed. Her eyes held a light that hadn't been there before. "Cut," Lester called quietly. But nobody moved. The moment was too powerful to break immediately. Sean kept holding Audrey's hands. "Do you believe me?" he asked. "I want to," she said. "Then start there. Want to believe it. The rest will follow." What happened next was remarkable. For the remaining weeks of filming, Audrey was different. The insecurity that had plagued her since arriving in Spain began to fade. She stopped criticizing her appearance, stopped apologizing for her age, started carrying herself with the confidence that had made her a star. If you want more untold stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Your support means everything to us. The crew noticed immediately. Yvonne Blake, the costume designer, said, "It was like watching someone come back to life." Suddenly, Audrey was standing taller, smiling more naturally, inhabiting her own skin again. The transformation showed on camera. In scenes filmed after Sean's impromptu speech, Audrey glowed. She was radiant in a way that had nothing to do with lighting or makeup. She was a woman who remembered she was beautiful. Richard Lester later called it the most honest moment I ever captured on film. He kept Sean's unscripted words in the final cut. Audiences watching Robin and Marian hear Sean Connery tell Audrey Hepburn she's more beautiful at 46 than she was at 25. Most viewers assume it's brilliant dialogue. They have no idea they're witnessing a real moment of one human being saving another. The film premiered in 1976. Critics noted Audrey's luminous performance. Words like radiant and timeless appeared in reviews. Audiences fell in love with her all over again. At 47, she was still a romantic heroine, still magnetic, still Audrey. But more importantly, Audrey finally believed it herself. In interviews promoting the film, journalists asked about working with Sean Connery. Audrey's answers revealed the impact of his words. "Sean reminded me that aging doesn't mean disappearing," she said. "It means deepening, becoming more yourself, not less." When asked if she felt too old to play a romantic lead, her response was confident. "I think there's something more romantic about love between people who've lived, who've made mistakes, who choose each other not because they're perfect, but because they're real." This was a different Audrey, secure, self-possessed, unafraid of her age. Sean and Audrey remained close friends after filming. He'd check on her during difficult periods, send flowers on her birthday, remind her, when she doubted herself, of what he'd told her that day in Spain. Years later, when Audrey was struggling with her cancer diagnosis, Sean visited her in Switzerland. Friends who were there said he repeated the same words. "You're more beautiful now than you were at 25." Even facing death, Audrey needed to remember her worth. At Audrey's memorial service in 1993, Sean spoke about their friendship. He talked about her kindness, her humanitarian work, her legacy. But he also talked about beauty. "Audrey taught me that real beauty has nothing to do with youth," he said. "It's about character, grace, the courage to keep loving even when life breaks your heart." After the service, a reporter asked Sean about the Robin and Marian filming, about that moment when he stopped mid-kiss. Sean's response became legendary. "I couldn't kiss her while she believed she wasn't worth kissing. I had to remind her who she was first." The reporter pressed, "Did you mean what you said? Was she really more beautiful at 46? Sean didn't hesitate. "She was the most beautiful woman I ever knew, at any age." This story isn't just about Sean Connery and Audrey Hepburn. It's about recognizing beauty where our culture teaches us not to look for it. It's about the power of being seen truly, completely, without the filters of expectation or prejudice. Sean Connery saw a 46-year-old woman who'd been told she was past her prime. Instead of agreeing with that narrative, he saw deeper. He saw the accumulation of experience that made her more interesting, not less. The wisdom that made her more attractive, not less. The depth that made her more beautiful, not less. And his words didn't just change that one moment. They changed how Audrey saw herself for the rest of her life. They gave her permission to age without apologizing, to embrace her maturity instead of hiding from it, to understand that becoming older meant becoming more herself, not a lesser version of who she used to be. In a world obsessed with youth, Sean Connery's words to Audrey Hepburn stand as a revolutionary act. A rejection of the idea that women become invisible after 40. A celebration of the beauty that comes from living, loving, surviving, and growing. Watch Robin and Marian today. Watch that kiss scene. Remember that you're seeing the moment when one of the world's most beautiful women remembered she was beautiful, not despite her age, because of everything her age represented. Every joy, every sorrow, every year that had shaped her into who she was meant to be. Sean Connery gave Audrey Hepburn the greatest gift one person can give another: the truth about their worth. And that truth, that beauty deepens with time, that experience enhances rather than diminishes us, that real attraction comes from authenticity rather than youth. That truth changed everything. For Audrey, and for everyone who heard it. This is Audrey Hepburn, The Hidden Truth. From wartime horrors to Hollywood secrets, we uncover what they've been hiding for decades. Subscribe to discover the dark truth behind the elegant image.